Dragon Ball Sparking Zero came out in October of 2024 for the PC through Steam and console on the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5, which is where I played it. Retailing for $70 US, you can pick it up for 40% off if you wait for a good sale. Featuring a ton of characters, a single-player mode that covers the entirety of the Dragon Ball Z and Super stories, I put in about 20 hours during my playtime on the PlayStation 5. So, is Sparking Zero worth playing on console in 2025? This review is going to answer that question.
What? You little... Piccolo! Your attack! Do it now! Are you insane? Maybe, but it's the only way to beat you!
Sorry to keep you waiting. Are you ready?
Do it! No! Stop!
Special Beam Cannon!
Let's begin the review, as we always do, with the technicals and graphics of Sparking Zero on console. The game runs really well on PlayStation 5 with no frame rate drops or crashes. There are, however, some pathfinding issues and the enemy AI is quite bad, with your computer opponents alternating between superhuman reaction times and combo spamming, to not engaging and then just charging their ki at a distance without ever coming close. For graphics, the character models look great, the maps are detailed, and the game didn't have that blurry, low-res look that some fighting games have just to keep the frame rate up. But unfortunately, the cutscenes themselves aren't anything special, and many of them skip entire sections of the story, or they just revert back to the comic book or manga panels so that they didn't have to animate them. Overall, the game looks good, but its technicals aren't really anything special. There are also quite a few long load times to access maps and matches, with the game having Goku traveling in different parts of the world as you visit the shop for customization or entering into the single-player game. The single-player portion was especially slow, with a cinematic to access it and a map that was slow to scroll through.
I think he is. Waltzing up to me like it's nothing.
As I thought, he's grown stronger after having his wounds healed. But how he's recovered so quickly is cause for concern.
It might be too late, Goku. Even if Piccolo's body is preserved,
I know. Which means the Dragon Balls would be gone forever too.
No, it's not hopeless. Even if he dies, there's still a way.
Now at this point, I'm going to assume that if you're watching this video or wanting to play Sparking Zero, you're at least familiar with the Dragon Ball franchise. Sparking Zero has a single-player campaign that covers the entirety of Dragon Ball Z, from when Raditz shows up to the Majin Buu saga, along with Dragon Ball Super, which ends at the Tournament of Power. The story is told from certain characters' point of view, skipping or glossing over parts of the narrative that they weren't a part of. So for example, if you pick Goku's story, you will always play as Goku, and if he isn't involved in a fight, you won't see that section of the story. There are a few different characters to choose from in the single-player story, and you're going to replay the narrative from their point of view, filling in the blanks. But the game relies on you having seen the anime or having read the manga to make sense. Newcomers to the series won't totally know what's going to happen here, since the game really tries to just rush the narrative to just get to the combat pieces. Apart from the main story, there are a few what-ifs sprinkled through the narrative. These are just like alternate timelines, things you can achieve by beating an enemy more quickly than you should have, or maybe you managed to kill Cell as Goku, or you didn't die against Raditz like you should have. For the most part, these what-ifs are only small, little interesting tidbits that are almost like a developer reward than anything really insane. But some of them do lead to entirely new storylines, but they just end pretty quickly. For example, one of the early ones has Goku beating Raditz at the start and just not dying. This means that he's alive when Vegeta and Nappa arrive on Earth. He doesn't have some of the techniques he should have, and he goes Super Saiyan way earlier than normal. The what-ifs are enough for you to hunt around for them, but they really feel like a missed opportunity. Honestly, after watching the show a ton of times, reading the manga, playing a bunch of games that retell DBZ and Super, I was kind of like hoping for an entire game that's just what-ifs. So unfortunately, if you want a game that does a good job retelling Dragon Ball Z's storyline, then pick up Dragon Ball Kakarot. It does the story retelling really well, has good cinematics, whereas Sparking Zero, on the other hand, is like a poor man's version of the anime.
Where is it, Bang. I don't know if I've ever felt this excited about the prospect of a battle in my entire life. Now I only need to decide how I'll kill you.
All right.
Okay, now for the most important part of a fighting video game review, talking about the gameplay and the fighting. Sparking Zero is, in my opinion, not a very good fighting game. I love Dragon Ball fighting games and I've played a lot. Sparking Zero ranks towards the bottom end of Dragon Ball fighting games and even lower for fighting games in general. The problem with Sparking Zero's combat is that it's both overly complicated and way too simple. It's simple in that you only really have a punch, a special charge, technique trigger, and a block button that are your main useful controls. You'll mostly be doing basic punches, blocks, and the charge trigger to charge your energy and unleash a special attack 99% of the time. That's what makes Sparking Zero's combat so simple. You punch a lot, comboing and hitting people away, and when they attack you, you block. When you get some distance, you charge your ki, and you use a special attack. Each character has 2 special attacks and 2 support skills that can't be changed. What makes it even more simple is that combat in Sparking Zero is really unbalanced. Against the AI opponents, you need to gain distance and spam long-range attacks. If you do end up getting close, the AI is just like way too fast and tricky to fight, so you need to run away and spam Kamehamehas. If you don't, the enemy will teleport behind you and just endlessly combo you to death. That does bring me to the other part that makes combat simple. The only effective way to fight the AI is at long range, and the only way to attack human opponents is to try and teleport behind them and combo them, and while they do the same to you. That's what makes combat so simple. You're locked into these 2 ways of fighting. I'm sure some people will say, well, Sparking Zero is a lot more nuanced than that, and you're totally wrong, but this review is my perspective of the game. Sparking Zero is too unbalanced to do anything else but teleport behind your opponent or endlessly spam long-range attacks at the AI. I said earlier that Sparking Zero is also very complicated, and what I mean by that is that its controls are complicated. So apart from the punch, block, and charge energy buttons, you also have a counter button that lets you block and counter an attack, a fly up and a fly down button, and a quick movement button. They give you multiple ways to block, with either pressing the block button, the counter button, or pressing either at the right time, but none of them are any good. The regular block button works fine. Countering is finicky, requires energy, and almost never really works. The only good way to use block is to press it at the right time to teleport behind your opponent. Sparking Zero gives you way too many things to do on the controller, but most of them are useless and unbalanced. There's no comboing apart from spamming the attack button. There's no techniques to use apart from holding the right trigger. It's an odd combination of way too many buttons and things, but not enough control of the character. Control in a fighting game is often hard to communicate. Sparking Zero's problems aren't that the combat is laggy or unresponsive. It's not that it's slow or too fast. It's that it's bad. It's that the only things that work are the most simple attacks and that everything else is poorly explained and technically difficult to pull off. The AI can teleport behind you and pretty much take out half your life in one endless combo, and the game does nothing to tell you how to prevent it. You can't block from behind you, you can't teleport away when you're being comboed. You can't even figure out how to teleport in the first place. You can't roll, you can't run away. So when you're in a combo, you just take it until the AI gets tired of attacking. It's the oddest fighting I've played in the game in quite a while, and I don't really have anything to really compare it to. It's like when you were a kid playing a fighting game on like SNES with a friend, and they figured out that if they held the down button on the controller and pressed low kick, they could just spam attacks that you couldn't block. Or you play a game where your character's like up in the air and they figured out how to juggle you, just hitting you over and over again to keep you in the air and never let you touch the ground. Most developers would prevent that from happening, or at least give you a way to deal with it. Sparking Zero, on the other hand, you just get wrecked, and next time hope the AI bugs out and endlessly charges in the distance while you spam long-range attacks at it.
If you've got a new special attack hidden up your sleeve, now's the time to use it, Goku.
Go to hell!
Sorry. Nope.
All right, let's go into the pros and cons of Sparking Zero. For the pros, the game does look great. The character models are very detailed, their clothing changes as the fights go on. Characters lose pieces of armor or their clothing gets shredded. It's crystal clear and high resolution and has no FPS drops. The voice acting are all the real voice actors, and it's just like it is in the anime. There are a lot of characters to choose from in the multiplayer or the custom game modes. You can even create custom scenarios and share them online with other players. But for the cons, I hated the combat, which is a big deal in a fighting game. I really wanted to rage quit a lot of times while I played the single player campaign, and I had to force myself to keep playing. That's never really a good sign when you're trying to review a video game. There are a lot of characters, but most of them are just different transformations of the same people. You can't customize them much, and you're pretty much stuck with the techniques they give you. There isn't a lot of DLC content, and the multiplayer is pretty much dead at this point. You might get a few matches, but there are definite lulls during the slow parts of the day. When you do get matches, you rotate through the same few maps repeatedly. And that's it for another review. So, is Sparking Zero worth playing on console? The answer is, unfortunately, no. Not even if you get it on sale for 40% off. Maybe if you pick it up for $10 or $20, it's worth it, but I would avoid Sparking Zero. If you're looking for a good Dragon Ball game that retells the story, play Dragon Ball Kakarot. If you're looking for an interesting what-if scenarios in Dragon Ball, play Xenoverse and Xenoverse 2. And if you're looking for a great Dragon Ball fighting game, Fighter Z is incredible, and you can get all of these games for pretty cheap on both console and PC. I'm the Casual Console Gamer, and I'll see you all in the next review.